Alright, I am going to try to not get preachy with this, but I've been trying to make this video for a couple of days now. Mainly because I reached a milestone and wanted to share and encourage people. If you've never interacted with me, like, this is my voice. I'm monotoned regardless. It takes a lot for me to sound excited or I guess any emotion through my voice, but either way, I'm gonna try to get through this. Just wanted to share some things. A lot of people have been on my friends list or whatever, or even in real life. They know that I've been through some craziness over the last year, and November the 17th made a year since I got kicked out of my home. That was the house that we purchased together. So I left. I had 3 cube organizers, and Mariah's part of the bunk bed. Our clothes off our backs. There was a friend of mine from elementary school, which is crazy because she did, when the night that my brother went to the hospital during the hurricane because he fell and he had some stomach pain. My friend from elementary school, her name was Kristen, she did Stephen's scans because she works in radiology, and that is also the night that we found out that he had cancer. So Kristen sent me a message when I was going through all of this because I was desperately looking for a place to go, and she had a friend who rented out a duplex. She only rented out, to people that she knew or referrals, family, and luckily for me, even though she didn't know me personally, based off Kristen's recommendation, she allowed us to move in. It was a lot smaller than, what we were coming from. So I had to get 2 storages and move all of our things because everything happened so quickly, literally in a weekend. But her name is Corey, and she was an angel. I mean, I can't even describe the impact that this woman had on me and my kids. I moved in within days. I mean, the place was available. I moved in within days. I remember it was a Monday. I had called to get the lights transferred over, and Lakeland Electric, they started the transfer, and then it was stopped and interrupted by Ellis. Apparently my name was, at some point I was on the electric account, but he had removed me. They stopped the transfer. So I'm standing in the middle of this duplex or apartment that I just rented with nothing. It's empty because that's what we came with. And Corey comes walking up. She didn't know I was obviously going to be there, but I'm standing in the middle of the apartment, and I'm sobbing because I don't know how I'm going to get electric because I'd have to start a new account, which required a $350 deposit. Mariah was with me. It was just a really, really hard time. And Corey came walking in the door. It was the most bizarre thing. She's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were gonna be here. I was just gonna replace the filter and the batteries and the smoke detector and da da da." And she saw me crying, and she immediately was like, "What is happening?" Because I had already kind of told her what I was going through, but I explained to her the light situation, and she told me, she said, "Stop." She said, "Look around." She goes, "Is there electricity in this place right now?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Take that off of your worry list." She said, "There's lights right now. It's in my name." She said, "Just, save up for the deposit. Don't worry about the lights. Take that off your list for now. Get settled, blah, blah, blah." That was blessing number 1. From a lady that she doesn't know me. She doesn't know my credibility. She doesn't know who I am as a person. All she knows is Kristen you know, referred her to me, you know, so I could have a place to go with my kids. She then, she realized that she needed a ladder. It was the funniest thing. And I don't know if anybody knows Corey Lovett, but she's a blessing, and she's been through so much, which is why all this means so much to me, and that I feel like I have to speak about it. I don't know if she's even comfortable with me sharing this. I don't know. I didn't ask her, so I'll ask for forgiveness later, but people need to know, you know, what a good person, you know, that she is. So she comes in and she realizes at that time she doesn't have a ladder to replace the battery. So she's going to go to, I think it was like Lowe's or Home Depot or something. And she goes to leave. She's like, do you want anything from Starbucks? And of course I declined because I was like, you know, I didn't have an appetite. I didn't even want to drink or eat anything at that point. But it was just, you know, the sweetest gesture once again. So needless to say, Cassie, of course, and my sister, and Cassie's mom and Anaya and my mom and everything, they had such a huge part on me getting into this duplex. I think Cassie and I moved everything. I don't even think we got a U-Haul the first go around. I think it was just our cars, and we moved everything. So here we are in the duplex again, much smaller than what we're used to or what we were even coming from. So we didn't have adequate space at all. So my stuff went into the storage, 2 storages, mind you. And when I mean stuff, I mean like the stuff that was in the attic, my pictures, you know, things that I wasn't ready to get rid of yet. Kitchen stuff that in this place, you know, it wasn't big enough for me to cook like I used to cook or bake like I used to bake. So I had to pack all that stuff away. And we, you know, pretty much like thugged it out over the last, you know, from November of last year until, you know, we're in the place now. But during that time, my license, I got a suspension letter because Ellis took me off the car insurance. Didn't tell me. So I got a letter in the mail that says my license was going to be suspended. So then I had to find car insurance, which, you know, should he have carried me on the car insurance? No, it's not his responsibility. But obviously I wasn't thinking about any of that in the moment because I had just lost my place. He could have at least let me know, you know, so I could have prepared. And then, you know, my dad ends up passing away in February unexpectedly. Haven't even properly grieved from that. Like I feel almost, you know, I feel bad because I haven't even grieved. Like I cry about it and I'm sad about it, but it's still just so like new and unreal that I don't think I've fully grasped the fact that he passed, because I feel like I was essentially robbed from that moment because I've been in survival mode for the past year. So in the meantime, you know, my dad passed, then my car broke down. In court, you know, I reached out, and the way my pay is set up, like rent was obviously late, like on the 5th, but you know, if I didn't get paid till the 7th, I would just reach out and say, hey, listen, I have it. I'll have it on the 7th and I'll include, you know, the late fees. She never once, you know, had me pay the late fees. You know, I always offered because it was the right thing to do. I knew that I was due that to her. But again, she was just so good to me. You know, and there were times when I would reach out and say, you know, I'm having a rough time this month. You know, my dad just passed, my car, my insurance, like all of these things just kept hitting me over and over and over again. And she was just always so gracious. It's crazy for me to even be getting teary-eyed right now, but she really was. She never made me feel bad. And I'll share some of the encouraging words that she would say to me. And Some people know her, some people don't. But the reason this is so, like, the reason I'm speaking on her and why this whole situation means so much is because she lost her husband. She's my age. Maybe she might even be a year younger than me. But she lost her husband. And she has 2 girls. And life can't be easy for her. It just can't be. I mean, it's impossible. She lost her, her partner. But through all of that, hold on. Okay, I had to get myself together. Through all of that, she has still remained like so gracious. And I think that's what I have to keep in mind on the hard days when I want to be so angry. I have to remember her heart. Like, for somebody to have gone through such a significant loss, and still be so faithful in in God and in His grace, and be able to kind of share and project that on people who, like me, who doesn't, I don't go to church every single day. I don't. And I always say, I love Jesus, but I cuss a little, because it's the truth. Like, I'm not perfect at all. I have a lot of guilt in my heart for being less than perfect. But, I look at Corey as somebody that I really do. I look at her and I'm like, if she could be that gracious and be that, forgiving and not be so, not be angry at the loss that she has taken. I should be there too. But I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't. For a long time. And I'm still not. I'm still very angry. But in, I guess it was July, had a random conversation with somebody at my job, and I was explaining what I had, gone through, because he lived in the same neighborhood that I had to move out of. And I told him, I'm living in this space that, while I've been very, very thankful and blessed, it's just small, and it's really like weighing in on my mental health, because the kids are kind of all on top of each other. They're not it's not that they weren't happy, but it just wasn't the same. And I knew it was going to take time to adjust, but it wasn't happening. And he knew of somebody that was renting a place that was ended up being a little cheaper in rent and much bigger in space. And so we were able to move into there. Corey, again, like, who is she? You know what I'm saying? She allowed me to break my lease with no penalty. I also had owed her like the deposit, but I never had enough money over to be able to give it to her. So I made sure that I cleaned the house, or the duplex, like, spotless before I left, and even made sure, she was good with it. And if there was anything that I owed to her, for her to please let me know. But she allowed me to break my lease. Like, we're talking probably 6 months early, I feel. So I could move into this other place. And we've been here since July. which I'm very, 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 very thankful for. But all of that to say, we were celebrating, I'm going to go back for a minute. We were celebrating this is how I knew that the relationship between Ellis and I had kind of reached its end. It was my 38th birthday. And one thing about Ellis that I will say is he's always been very intentional with his gifts. That's his love language, is gift giving. And I'm not that person. Like, I'm not a materialistic person. I'm not real big on, receiving gifts. It's just not who I am. But that was how he expressed what I thought was love. Now I look back, I feel like it was all guilt gifts, but whatever. But for my 38th birthday, he had gotten a cake, and it had, he got candles. And over the last 12 years, when I say he's been intentional, if I mentioned, a telescope to be able to look at, because I'm really into like astrology and looking at planets and things like that. Next thing you know, Amazon package would come and it'd be a telescope. So when I say he was very intentional, he was intentional in some aspects. Now there's some times when, he'd buy like Tory Burch sandals and things like that. And that just was never my cup of tea. I still have them in boxes, and I've never worn them because it's not a representation of who I am. Although I appreciated it, it just wasn't something that I was really into. But on this particular birthday, he got a small cake for us and the kids, and candles. And although it sounds really crazy, it might even sound, like I'm being ungrateful, but just hear me out. The candles that he got, it was a 3 and a 7. And I think at that point, my heart was crushed, only because I knew that we were on, our relationship was rocky. I knew there was, the cheating, but when he got the wrong age for the candles, I think that probably like solidified everything. And I just knew at that moment, like, okay, he's completely checked out. And again, it sounds ridiculous to you guys, probably, and it sounds crazy, but being in a relationship with this person had a huge impact on me to know that, okay, he's always super intentional, but this time he got like the wrong, I'm not turning 37, I was 37, I was turning 38. I never took those candles out of the package, and I've held on to them since I moved out. Kind of like as a symbol, or something showing like the last straw for me, or the last like moment when I knew, okay, this is probably done, like we're probably done. And I've held on to them, and they've been in my kitchen, even in this new place. I had them in my kitchen, and they're still packaged and everything. And I told myself when it got to November the 17th of 2025, which would make a year since I moved out, that I would, in a sense, do a celebration. And I would bake myself a cake, no matter where I was at in this journey, because I didn't know if, where we would be, what would be happening, would we be struggling, what did November 17th of 2025 look like? What was that going to look like at that day? I didn't know, but I knew what I was going to do. And I did that. And on November the 17th, I baked myself a cake out of a box. And I burned those candles. I opened the candles and I burned them, and so they would not burn anymore. To me, this signified not being okay, because I'm still not okay. Like, I still have super hard days, and there's things that have transpired, more, recently that ignited the hate and the anger that I have for him. He's super mean to me, like in ways that I never would have imagined him to be. Like, he kicking me out of the house, that was mean. Like, yeah, it was screwed up. But, the feeling of hate, like the feeling of him being angry at me, and the things that he says to me, and the way he makes me question who I am as a mom, and who he tries to portray me as, has recently really ignited anger and hate, and it brought up all those feelings again that I've been trying to work through while being in survival mode over the last year. And I can't explain it, but I baked that cake and I burned those candles, and I told myself that I was done, mourning and talking about being kicked out of my house. I'm done talking about the loss that I took when I lost that house. I'm done, talking about the things that I've been through over the last year. Like, not that I'm, I don't want to be done talking about it because it's a testimony. It's something I've been through. I survived it, but I guess lingering in that moment, sitting in it, being sad all the time, being angry all the time. Like, it's literally killing me physically. It's causing me to make stupid decisions about, my interactions with people, and the need to feel wanted and needed. And, I'm still trying to seek acceptance through, what others think, or, interactions with people. I can't explain it, but, I want to be done with that. I want to be able to build a new life for myself and for my children. And that's why I decided to burn those candles. And the reason I'm sharing this and talking about it is because, and I'm not good with public speaking, I actually despise it. And people know that certain people know that about me. But I, number one, need to recognize, like, the people who influenced me or had, like, really held me down over the last year, because I could not have done this by myself. It's impossible. Everything that I have been through when it comes to Ellis and the loss of that, even the loss of the relationship, the loss of what I thought was gonna be, selling my engagement ring was like, oh my God, it was the most devastating thing I had ever had to deal with. And I still see the mark on my finger where it was for, the whole time I had it on, having to be dragged into court and reading that eviction complaint in the court system, and it looking, and the way it read was, he portrayed me as this homeless squatter who, he never mentioned our relationship. We share a child, and none of that was mentioned. None of, I was just this woman that wouldn't get out of his home. These are all the things mentally that I have to go, like, let go. Being dragged into court by Mariah's dad, knowing the stuff, that he has said and done, and the repeated motions in the courts, the injunction he filed, and I had to go to court for that. Nobody knew about that, recently. All of these things that I've had to my dad, the loss of my dad, my car being broken down, and me having to get a brand new vehicle, and then getting into an accident at Mariah's volleyball tournament 2 weeks after I got it. My license going and almost being suspended because Ellis taking me off insurance. All of these things that I've had to try to work through while trying to survive and making sure my kids are good. I could not have done this without, like, my people. And even in my loneliest moments where I'm sitting at home, like I am now, when it normally happens when the kids are at their dad's, and I have to sit in my own, excuse my language, I have to sit in my own shit. Like I have to sit in it, and I really have to think about it and mourn and process it. You know, these are the moments that, you know, I've had to reflect. And I've had to say to myself, you're, you know, even in your loneliest moments, you're not alone. And that could mean, you know, and I'll say, even if I didn't have the village that I had, my friends and my family and my coworkers, even if I didn't have those, you know, obviously I have Jesus, right? Like, so I should never feel alone in any aspect of my life. But if it wasn't for my friends and my family and my coworkers, and I won't, most of them don't like to be recognized specifically, so I'm not going to do that out of respect. But there were people who gave gift cards. Half of the furniture in my house was donated. I would say all of it was donated by people. The couch that I'm sitting on was purchased by a family member. The kitchen table that I have, the beautiful kitchen table, was given to me by one of Mariah's volleyball. She didn't even play volleyball with Mariah. It was Alicia's teammate's mom. The desk that they use for their schoolwork. Somebody that I met, I don't even know how I met Alyssa. Like, I'm going to call you out, Alyssa, because I can't say enough great things about you. I don't even know how Alyssa and I met. But, you know, the desks were from her. Like, I don't even know how, like, where do I begin? The bedroom set that Mariah's sleeping on, my mom's friend that she's known since Dr. Rada's office when I was in elementary school, gave Mariah a whole bed set. My sister bought Skylar's bed. You know, Cassie, I can't even tell her, you know, how many times has she helped me move. Now, she did tell me this last time was going to be the last time because of the stairs. It was awful. But, you know, Cassie and her mom and her dad who came, my mom and Rick, like, they took my dad in and they took care of him while he was, you know, living there. And then when he passed, they took care of his funeral. You know, Isaiah cared for my dad when he was living as he's been living with my mom. All these things that I did not have to stress about. You know, the TVs that I have, one was donated. Well, actually, 3 of the TVs we had were donated by coworkers and friends. You know, my mom bought us the living room TV so that we had TVs to watch. You know, why Ellis has 4 mounted at the house in empty bedrooms. Those are the things that I'm trying to really be in my times when I want to be angry and I want to be bitter and I want to look at the loss. I'm reminded every time I look around how incredibly blessed I am. And, you know, like, people have purchased gift cards so that we could eat. Still to this day, people are coming through because I still don't have my crap together. Like, I've tried, but starting in the hole is so hard. Christmas happened last year because somebody from the volleyball team was like, hey, there's a toy drive. Bring the kids down and let them pick out, you know, Christmas presents. Christmas trees that I had in my house last year were donated from coworkers, friends. I'm trying to think. There's just so much. Like, you know, I've had to worry a lot over the last year, more so for my kids. But I've recently, you know, had to stop and I had to really reflect on the people that have helped me. And they don't even want recognition. They don't want thanks. They don't want any of that. They do it out of the goodness of their heart. They know that I'm a good person. It's my interactions, you know, because I really try to be a good person. I'm not perfect. I'm not. But when I'm wrong, I apologize, and I own my shit. Excuse my language. I own it. And and I know that. But I can't thank those people enough. Like I said, I don't want to call them out. Except obviously Cassie and her mom and Anaya. Even Anaya, like, I can't even tell you how many times she's willingly helped me move without complaining. Well, I won't say complain. She does complain a little bit, but it's all out of good fun. Like, her favorite thing to do is organize the pantry. Everywhere I've moved, that was her thing. She'll talk crap about it because I have you know, it's usually disorganized by week 3, but she'll come back and she'll reorganize it. Her mom, you know, just being a listening ear, helping move when she can, you know, being my hype girl, you know, through the hard times. Cassie, of course, that I don't even need to say anything about her because she's just like, you know, she's been there. My sister, who's my voice of reason, because there's been times I've called her and I've been on the verge of wanting to do stupid things that have really adverse effects, and she has really, like, she's my little sister, but she put me in my place even when she's going through stuff, because her life hasn't been easy. You know, my mom, of course, like, lady works 60 hours, you know, 50, 60 hours a week or whatever, and still manages to come to my rescue when I need her. And I'm almost 40. And her husband, Rick, like, he came the other day and put Christmas lights around the door, fixed the door handle, because the kids kept getting locked out because the door keeps sticking. Without me asking. Like, you know, took care of my dad. I can't, like, all these things. Isaiah just always being my hype man. Like, he always tells me what a great mom I am. Yeah. But I'm not gonna cry again. Just those people. You know, Lauren, who I could be on here all day thanking people individually for things that they probably don't even know they've done that impacted me in ways. Lauren getting us out of the house and going to the concert so that she takes me to concerts and always wants to she's that girl's girl, like the one that you want in your corner, who tells you you're beautiful, or, you know, doesn't mind telling you the good things about yourself because it doesn't impact her, you know, it doesn't lessen who she is. It, you know, Yolanda at my job and Teresa, like, every time we're in a leadership, you know, because I supervise people, and I'm like, some days I sit there and I'm like, how can I supervise people if my life is just so out of order right now? And they remind me without solicitation, without me having to ask, you know, what a great leader I am. And that's from their perspective. And they speak life into me as far as my career and tell me that I influence them, and I'm somebody that they look up to in terms of management or leadership at the sheriff's office. Like, what? You know, Donna, like my director, I can't even say enough things about her, because all through this, I've had to manage work, that whole work-life balance, and it is not easy, especially when life is out of, you know, what you seem like is out of control. Never once did I feel worried about my job per se. She has a family first mentality, and I appreciate that, but me as who I am and my work ethic, I've had to learn this past year to slow down and really focus on things, because it impacted my kids. Like, you know, at some point when there was that injunction filed, he was wanting to take Mariah away from me completely. How do you focus at work when you're dealing with that? Like, how, as a mom who's been 10 toes down, 150% committed to her kids, not perfect, not saying I'm perfect, but how do you manage work-life balance when something like that is impacting your life? How do you? So I appreciate her for her understanding and her being supportive in more ways than one. She too speaks life into who I am as a leader. She tells me, you know, the impact that I've made, or the things that people have said about me to her, good and bad. Like, you know, I'm not perfect. But I welcome constructive criticism, because I want to be better, you know, because I know I'm not perfect, and I can recognize some of my own faults without even people having to tell me. You know, Kayla, who she's had to navigate how to be a new supervisor with me being her manager, with me going through all of this chaos. And, you know, how do you do that? But she's done it, and we work well together. I think we have a really great team. I supervise like a total of 13 people, and I can't tell you how blessed I am with the team that I have. Like, and I'm not trying to make this all churchy or nothing, but they're, you know, they're great. Like, the whole team is amazing in their own way. Like, I have younger, older, I have a very diverse team, and I love it. And, you know, we work well together, and I never have to worry about, you know, I don't know, they just really look out for me. And I've recognized that, and I let them know that. Yeah, I don't know. I could go on and on. Lisa W. and Michelle, like, being my sounding board. I call Lisa, I don't know, a couple times a month, even week sometime, venting. And she's that, I don't know if she agrees with half the stuff that I say, but she surely acts like it. But since she retired, it's been rough because I don't have her right upstairs. But, you know, I call her, and she, as long as I call after 8:30, because she's retired now, so she don't get up like us normal business people. She answers the phone. Jen O'Neill, who always makes me laugh. There's so many people like I said, I could be here all day. But I mainly made this just to show my appreciation, to encourage people who, you know, maybe going through some stuff. It's not easy. You know, social media makes it look like everything's roses and sunshine. It's really not. I have really hard days, and those who are really, really close to me know that. But as of November 17th, 2025, that dwelling on the past stuff is done. I've slipped up a few times, not gonna lie, but for the most part, it's done. I'm gonna move forward. I'm gonna establish a new life for me and the kids, and figure out, you know, how to get through this next year, and then the next year, and then the next year. Holidays are always really hard for me because I'm used to hosting, you know, Thanksgiving. I love to cook, and the, you know, funds just ain't where they are to be able to do that. Thankfully, my mom is picking up the slack, and she's hosting over there. Same with Christmas, you know. This year just looks a lot different, not just because Ellis and I split, and now I'm having to figure out life without a bigger family. You know, it's also my first Christmas and Thanksgiving without my dad. So this isn't supposed to be a somber post. This is a post of appreciation and resilience. And you know, just to let everybody know that I appreciate everything you've done. And yeah, that's it. Hope you enjoyed my TED Talk.